Okay, let's move on to the next presentation and welcome on stage the company Midnight Sun Mining.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Morning, last part of the morning. My name is Adrian O'Brien, the Vice President of Business Development for Midnight Sun. There's a lot of information in this presentation that I normally go through. I'm going to keep it as short as I can, as punchy as I can, and really what I want to focus on is the themes around what we're doing, where we're working, and how important this project is globally. This is a really unique situation, probably one of the only junior companies you'll see that has both near-term production and large exploration potential. In particular, we're working on a target called Dumbwa that is the largest copper target in Zambia. It's actually the largest copper target in Zambia in history. And we're just drilling it. We just put out our first results, and we have a discovery. We have proof. We have proof that this is real, and we can show you where it's going. So this is a pretty unique story. Let me dive into this and show you what we're doing. As I said, I'm going to keep this pretty thematic, simple. I want to kind of show you the main points, and by all means come and visit us after and I can show you more detail. But we're in the right place. We're in an area called the Domes region of Zambia, and this is the top spot in the world right now for copper exploration. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. I'll show you what they are. What you're looking at on the screen is the Zambia-Congo copper belt. But the Zambia-Congo copper belt is a pretty special place, and what's developed over the last 20 years isn't just one of the largest producing areas in the world. This is the top spot for every company you can pretty well think of in the major copper space to be exploring and developing assets for copper. And the characteristics that make this so special are three. Number one, every deposit on your screen is 1 billion tons plus. In most every other jurisdiction in the world, if you have 1 billion tons, you've got the largest deposit in the region. Here, that's the average. This area breeds billion-ton copper deposits. These are massive, world-class, long-life mines. The other thing that makes these so special is not only are they so large, they're shallow. These aren't porphyry copper deposits that are 2 kilometers deep. These are shallow stratabound copper deposits that are less than 100 meters or 150 meters from surface. So they make perfect open pits. They make mines that can actually have a global impact on the copper deficit that's looming. So if you take that, there's 2 of the 3 characteristics. Number 3 is the grade. The average grade here is 0.56% copper. That's high grade. And when you're dealing with something that's only 150 meters under the surface, it's extraordinary. So for those reasons, everybody in the world is working here. Every major copper producer. You see First Quantum and Barrick, their flagship assets are here. The Kansanshi mine, that's 1 billion tons at 0.66. Barrick's Lumwana mine is the reason Barrick changed their name from Barrick Gold to Barrick Metals. It's right next door to us. And that's 1.6 billion, 1.62 billion tons at 0.52% copper. Right sandwiched between those 2 world-class assets is Midnight Sun. So everything you see surrounded in green is our asset. We have 4 targets for one of those billion-ton copper deposits, and one in particular that is the largest target on record in Zambia, and that's what we're working on right now. So I'll spend most of the presentation telling you about that, but it's a really unique story. First Quantum, of course, Sentinel and Kansanshi. Above that in the DRC is Ivanhoe's Kamoa-Kakula. That's part of this belt as well. That's 1.4 billion tons at almost 3% copper. It is an absolute monster. It's one of the biggest copper deposits in the world. So from an endowment perspective, it doesn't get better than this region. But what you don't see, it's not listed on this map, is BHP, Rio Tinto, Anglo American, Glencore. They're all there. They're all working. And what are they looking for? They're looking for a development stage asset, the next big tier 1 deposit. That's what we're working on handing them. We want to be there. We're in the development pipeline. We're the next one up. All we need to do is drill this off and get ready to hand it off to the company that's actually going to mine it. So I'll show you how we're doing that. This is zooming in. Now you can see Sentinel, Lumwana, and Kansanshi on the right-hand side. So there's Midnight Sun's property. We have 4 targets, and we're working on this thing that's hosted in what they call the basement dome. It's a special type of geology. To have a system in there gives you the largest grade and the largest scale opportunity to build an asset that's world-class. So we're working on this target called Dumbwa. And right next to us is something called Lumwana. So I'll give you a little backstory on Lumwana that gives you some context as to what we're doing. That asset was purchased from a company called Equinox 20 years ago for $7.3 billion. At that time, it was 900 million tons at 0.56, and Barrick struggled with it for 20 years to get it to work. 4 years ago, they brought a fellow named Kevin Bonnell in. Kevin Bonnell is a PhD geologist, and they gave Kevin the mandate of turning that into a Tier 1 asset. Kevin looked at it completely differently than anybody had in the past, and in 24 months, he handed Barrick 1.62 billion tons of ore, a 62-year mine life, and 9 million tons of contained copper. And then he went back to Barrick and he said, guys, that was pretty amazing. I hope you like what I just did at Lumwana, but the best asset in the country is actually called Dumbwa. It's owned by Midnight Sun, it's undeveloped, and we need to do a deal with them. So that brought Barrick to the table. We negotiated, we didn't come to a deal, but Kevin is so sure that Dumbwa is the next Lumwana that he quit his job at Barrick and joined us. So our chief operating officer is the fellow that unraveled Lumwana for Barrick, and now he's doing the same at Dumbwa. So let me show you what Dumbwa is. This is Kevin. This is the guy that did that work at Barrick. This is our chief operating officer and our geological mind that is driving this project forward. So he used a really simple methodology. If you have copper like we do, over 20 kilometers at surface, running ore grades, how do you move it to the next level? 2 steps. You run a geophysical survey that shows you what it looks like at depth, and then you drill it, and you only drill what you know. You only drill what you understand, so you can move it forward quickly and without wasting time and money. So this is Dumbwa. What you see there on the screen, that purple blob, that is a 20-kilometer long soil anomaly running 0.73% copper. Now you remember I said the average grade of the mines in this district is 0.56. That's ore grade copper in soil, over 20 kilometers. There's drilling there. This was drilled mostly in 2007 by First Quantum. Those are right, 7 or 8 of the 21 intercepts that they had, and every one of those is an economic intercept. So we know it's real, we know the sulfide system is there, and we know it's very, very big. We also have something called a copper clearing. When you have a high-grade copper system like this, at depth, something happens at surface where no trees and no vegetation can grow. So it's one of the clearest pathfinders to a big deposit in Zambia. This is what Dumbwa looks like before you get to the copper anomaly. This is what it looks like when you arrive. Nothing could grow there. This is as real as it gets, and you can't miss it. You don't need to be a geologist to know that there's something very strange going on under the ground at Dumbwa. And you can see it up on the hills on the far side. This runs for 20 kilometers. So we've gone in and we've sampled, we've done all the preliminary work. We know that Lumwana and Dumbwa are the same. So we ran that geophysical survey, Kevin's magic bullet, if you will. And this is what it gave us. Now this is geophysical stuff. I don't want to go too deep into geology, but what you see on the right-hand side is showing you the mineralization over a stretch of 11.5 kilometers. And to give you context, Lumwana stretches for 4 kilometers. This is 3 times the size, and we've only tested half. So now we're in there, we're drilling, and we just released our very first assays, and they look like this. We've now proven that Dumbwa's real. We came up with results, you can see them on the left-hand side, 39 meters of 0.51. The average system here has a depth or a thickness of about 15 meters. These are big intercepts, those are economic grades. We actually had one in there that was 7 meters at 1.1%. So now we know it's real. What's the plan? We drill, we drill, we drill. We have 3 drill rigs running right now. We just added a 4th. Yesterday we announced a financing of $26.5 million. It's completed, it's closed, and it took about 24 hours. So we are financed to take this to the finish line, and the idea is at the end of the day, we want to sell this to somebody that's going to mine it. We're not a mining company, we're an exploration company. It's what we've done through our careers. We've made discoveries and built out assets over and over and over. This is the next one, and it is extraordinary. This is super exciting for us, and we just can't believe how lucky we are to get to move something like this forward. But these are your very first drill holes that show that we're on path, we're on track, Now we're going to drill it off. We're not stopping. We have the funding to do it. We're adding a 4th rig, and ideally in the new year, we might even add a couple more. So we're going to move it forward as quickly as possible. Now, I mentioned that there is a development side to our story as well. What I just showed you was our flagship asset. Okay, that's the big prize for Midnight Sun. But this is the thing that makes us a unicorn in the exploration space. This is a project in the northwest corner of our property called Gaziba, and it has a very high-grade oxide copper deposit, which we've been working on. Last year we drilled for the first time, and we had extraordinary grades, which I'll show you in a second, but here's why it matters. First Quantum's Kansanshi mine is right beside us on the eastern side. They're 6 kilometers away, and their haul road runs right through our property. First Quantum has an SXEW oxide circuit, so an oxide circuit specialized for processing this kind of copper ore. That's the economic engine of their mine. How it works is this. They have a smelter on site. The smelter's byproduct is 1.5 million tons of sulfuric acid a year, and they have oxide copper at the mine. They heap leach oxide copper, which neutralizes that sulfuric acid and gets rid of it because it's an environmental liability. And that process gives them cathode copper, which they sell for $450 million a year. The problem is they've run out. They need oxide copper, they don't have any, and where's the next source? It's on Midnight Sun's property. So that's what we're working on. We're going to be the source feed for Kansanshi if we're successful, and we'll keep them going for the years to come. So we have this area called Gaziba that we've done a bunch of drilling, and those were the results. Again, average grade of a mine in Zambia, 0.56%. We hit 21 meters of 10.6%, 5.5 meters of 26%, or sorry, 26 meters of 5.5%. I mean, extraordinary grades, very, very high grade. And what we have here is a highly variable, high grade, small deposit that can be mined by Kansanshi or by First Quantum and create source feed for their SXEW circuit. We've gone out and now drilled 160 holes that we just finished. That's going to result in a resource that we're going to release around the first week of December, and we're going to find out just how big this is and how much it's worth. That tangible asset is going to create cash flow for Midnight Sun if we're successful, and it backstops our entire valuation. So as a result of this, we've gone from a $20 million company to a $260 million company in 12 months. At the peak so far, we were $360 million. Market's backed off a little bit. We've completely changed this thing. We've put this asset into the development pipeline, and now we've got the funding in place thanks to our financing yesterday to move this all the way to the finish line. So we have almost $40 million in the bank as of today. We're fully financed, we're ready to rock, we're drilling like crazy, we're adding 2 more rigs, we're going full tilt, and we're going to bring this to market within the next, call it 12 to 18 months. This is going to develop very, very quickly, and in the meantime, put ourselves in a position to reap the cash flow from the project with First Quantum, and that puts us in a pretty darn unique position. So with that, I'm sure my 15 minutes is almost up. I don't see the timer, but I don't need to. 2 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions? That is the quickest I think I've made it through this story, and I skipped a lot of info, but this is really unique. It's a pretty special situation. You know, and I look at, you know, our team that we've built, having somebody like Kevin Bonnell on board. You don't have the chance to work with a geologist of that caliber very, very often. I've worked with a lot of geologists in my career. Kevin is a very, very special individual. If you look at his credits in the camp, I kind of skipped over this to make sure I got all this information in for you guys. But Kevin was Freeport-McMoRan's exploration manager for sub-Saharan Africa for almost 20 years. He was one of the top sediment-hosted copper geologists, and he has more copper deposits to his credit in this belt than any other geologist. So when Kevin came to us through Barrick and said, dump was real, we want to be there, I want to help you guys build this, we listened. So to bring him on, to get that stamp of approval, and the reinforcement that our thesis was right, and now to go out and drill and have those drill discoveries that prove it is just incredible. So with that, I'll quit a couple minutes early and let the next person jump up here. If anybody has questions, we're just a couple of rows over, and I'll stick around for a minute afterwards if anybody wants to chat. But really appreciate everybody showing up today. Thank you.